Okay, how's it going, everybody? I hope you're all doing well. Okay, so in this episode, I want to try to say something about the philosopher Hebert Marcuse and his seminal work, One Dimensional Man. Okay, so what are some of the main ideas there? Well, so first of all, and in no particular order, Marcuse argues that a one-dimensional society is one which has whittled away all of our private space. You know, that supposed infrangible realm of the sacred. That little space we had inside of us of negation and freedom and contemplation, where our genuine self lies. Nope, that's gone. Private life as such doesn't exist anymore. Society has invaded and taken over our entire being, including this inner dimension. It's just swallowed it up, and it's done this by having gotten deep inside of us, where it's shaped our desires and our values, and manipulated our needs and even our instincts. Okay, well, so what's the consequence of this? Well, it's that we identify ourselves with what's around us, with what's external to us, namely our society and its products. We project and find ourselves in things. We recognize ourselves in our commodities. Actually, a good example here of this would be the character Jack from the iconic 1999 film Fight Club, played by Edward Norton. So if you've seen the film, you know that Jack has spent his entire adult life, well, consuming. And so what he does is he basically completely identifies himself with his job and his material possessions. In this way, he's really superficial and pathetic. I mean, he says it himself. He says, like everyone else, I had become a slave to the IKEA nesting instinct. I flipped through catalogs and wondered what kind of dining set defines me as a person. So you might say that a good description of Jack's life up to now is shallow or one-dimensional. And the same goes for the corporate and the consumerist world that he inhabits, the sort of world, of course, the film obviously rallies against. Anyway, okay, well, like Jack, Marcuse thinks that we too find our soul in our cars and in our dining sets. And so ultimately, as one-dimensional beings like this, we no longer know what our real or our vital needs and desires are. In other words, as one-dimensional beings, we don't know our true needs precisely because our needs are really not our own, since they're superimposed on us by our capitalistic and consumerist society and further fortified by the state of our existence. We just desire and consume what's in accordance with the advertisements. And here's the thing, they're all the same sorts of desires. Desires for iPhones and McDonald's and Nike and flat screen TVs and barbecues and, well, like Jack says, dining sets. So, according to Marcuse, there's a real sense in which we are being indoctrinated and manipulated. We're being kept incapable of being, well, autonomous. But then the question is, well, how do we liberate ourselves from this? How do we get back our freedom and our autonomy? Well, okay, so we should first come to see that freedom is not having the option between Netflix or Disney, or between any of the infinite gadgets and brands out there. Freedom is not having a million choices. That's just an illusory freedom perpetuated by capitalism to keep us locked into the feeding frenzy and to keep us temporarily satiated until another shinier option comes along. No, freedom is having the capacity to see beyond the bubble we live in. It's getting a sense of how it is we might transcend the whole system. It's to know that both an off-the-grid place and off-the-grid thinking is still a possibility. That's freedom. Okay, but I gotta say that there are at least 3 big, serious hurdles to this, to freedom. So first of all, in a capitalistic and in a consumeristic society, we have to spend most of our time working relentlessly to prove ourselves on the market, right? In other words, compulsion and necessity rules over us. We have to work harder and make more money to buy more things, to establish ourselves, and to, one-up our neighbors. There just is no rest in this. There is no real leisure. Okay, but now you might reply, hey, what about the fact that we're allotted vacation time? I mean, that's freedom, isn't it? Well, I don't know. It might mask itself as leisure and a time for reflection. But really, it's a pit stop, isn't it? A brief time to rest and to fix what's broken down, all in order to get back to the racetrack. In other words, a vacation is really a means to an end. It's not an end in itself. It's not a separate realm of being, but rather it's an integral part of the structure and the process of this larger system of production that governs our lives. So notice what the first big hurdle to transcending our situation is then. In a world totally absorbed by work and efficiency and productivity, we just can't get the right sort of reflection and contemplation needed for this sort of transcendence. We can't get a freedom disconnected from the larger process of production, one where we're liberated from the world's work imposing upon us alien needs. You know what? It's interesting. Aristotle privileged the life of the philosopher precisely because it wasn't a life marked by work. But he didn't mean by this that philosophers lived the lazy, idle life. No, far from it. He meant that they were able to think and to move in the world without coercion and necessitation. For him, this sort of leisure was real freedom, since it opened up a space beyond the necessities of life. Freed up in this way, it opened up the possibility of becoming truly human. Okay, well, so the second big hurdle to freedom or to transcendence, and this is something that Marcuse talks about, is that our capitalistic and consumerist society has become so ubiquitous that it's become a society without any opposition. A society that's almost completely closed off any possibility of radical social and individual change. Or as Marcuse says, a society that militates against qualitative change. I mean, there's such a conformity to prevailing thought that there's almost no critical dimension left, you might say. And if you don't go along with the status quo, you're stigmatized, and ultimately you're still impotent in the face of the overwhelming tyranny of the majority, right? All right, well, so finally, the third big hurdle is this. It's that because we're constantly being fed and satiated, we're actually content with our lot. In other words, the real problem is how it is we're going to find it in us to liberate ourselves from what is rewarding and comfortable and pleasurable, without which it's become almost impossible for us to imagine happiness. When are we going to see that the more the smooth functioning of our goods and gadgets assure us a comfortable life at the material level, the more estranged we become from an awareness of our inner reality and our deepest needs? I don't know. It seems like the truth of the matter is that not until we're able to liberate ourselves from this sort of false consciousness, from our consumerist needs and their soothing effects, are we going to be able to see the possibilities for a genuinely happier and freer life. Bye for now.